Hi everyone, Brad Rodriguez here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I like to use a bouncing ball as an example to get to learn more about harmony. In this exercise, you'll get to learn a little bit more about the brush, and all those other drawn tools, all the way down to the paint bucket, I guess, if you've never met it before. But this is going to show you a little bit more about how the timeline works in conjunction with the node view, making new palette colors, etc. As a matter of fact, a way that I'll start is by thinking about, well, what I love about Harmony in its palette selections is that no matter what color this bouncing ball is, and let's take a look at it in action, you can change this color. If I said I wanted this to be more of a skin tone, which I have this as set to skin, I can easily go inside, double tap on the borders over here and make the drop window come over, well, pop-up window come up. And I can press on this little H here. If yours wasn't selected, you just press on this H and it's nice little color picker strategy over here. Really quickly to grab the right color very fast. So I'm going to go with that for skin and hit X. And so now when I hit play, it's going to be a bouncing flesh ball. So from flesh ball to an actual character, we'll build something. First off, I want to set all of these, just to be safe, I want to set all of these to be keyframes, F6. So I'm going to hit F6 over here for this one. Let's see. Oops, sorry. Logan Head. I call it Logan Head now. I'm going to build Wolverine over here. So let's go through. And I'm going to show you my mask for Wolverine that I added on. So he's here for 2 frames. If I deselect this area, he now looks like the regular tone that he's going to be. So I want Logan to, his face at least, to follow this ball. So let's see if I can do that. I know that if I tried to tether these to each other, it's not going to go. Like if I extended the, by F5 over here, his face is not going to follow. It's like he's about to throw up over here. So my next strategy is going to be to, let's see, I'll make sure my animation guy is on. This little guy right here. And F6, I'll turn this into a keyframe. And I'll extend the exposure here, F5, but I'm going to change it to something else. And when I mean change it, I'm going to change this drawn substitution as all one drawn, number 1, into a number 2 drawn by going to my duplicate drawns. And then I'm going to keyframe it, F6. Give that little square in there, a little red square. And now, well, first off, I should have added a pivot to any of these drawings that I have here that I've started off with. It doesn't have a pivot. You can see that it's dead center over here. It's always a good idea to have a pivot, because if I needed to move this, frame it a little bit differently, get the mask to fit his face a little bit differently, or skew or stretch it, it's going to stretch from a different, point from the center. We don't want that. One easy way to do that is to straight up just grab your pivot button. They give you a whole button for it, and you could set your pivot, like say, I want things to drag from here. And you see how automatically it just fits his head onto it. Hit save. Always hit save if you have that set as an automatic suggestion. And when it's time, you can set the intervals in your preferences. But it's always a good practice to just hit Command S for save. So now his head is moving down. But I get to also now, because it's a copy onto itself, I can manipulate it like so, click and drag just a little bit so it moves, because this ball is not the same in the same position as the original. It's starting to get immediately a little bit oblong, so I have to adjust his face to, you know, that look of it. So there we go. Let's add more over here. And I'm going to hit F5. Actually, over here, F5. And I'm going to repeat the process. I'm just going to hit this one, duplicate. Sorry about that. Duplicate, and then I'm going to F6 it. Once I F6 it, and it's a number 4 mask over here, I can make that as oblong as I want. You see, it's easier when I have that pivot point to drag from. There's very little guesswork once I'm dragging from the right place. Let's do that again. F5. Oh, and I see right here that we're getting into a quicker series of drawings. They only last for 1 frame. So let's extend just once. Let's see, why is that not F5? And there you go. Wasn't doing it for me for a moment there. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to turn that into a drawing substitution, number 5. I'll just tap it down using my shift and down key just to kind of get it prepared for it. There we go. And let me see how this mask is holding up over here. I don't want to, I want to make sure that I'm not making a mess over here. See, there we go. His head isn't actually that long. So let's do that. There we go. Let me just check that one. See, there you go. Back on that. And that's the thing I love about this program. It's so easy to go back. Nothing is written in stone. Just go in and just fix it the way that you want. They give at least 3 different ways to do any one thing. Like, say, if I wanted to grab my brush, I can grab my brush here. I could hit B on my shortcut, you know, made key over here on my, you know, because you have to make your shortcuts up here. I go into your, let's see, preferences. Right, you would have to go, no, that's in the old one. In the new one, they give you a whole thing for just drawings. But let's see, you go over here, preferences, and you would go to your drawings. And I believe in 22, it's set up a little bit different. I may be wrong about that. Don't quote me on it. But yes, you could get it B on your, you know, your keyboard. You can get B, you know, you can get your brush over here, or you can just simply right click in here into, you know, right into the workspace, go to drawing tools, and your brush is selected over here. It shows you what's selected at the moment. So that's why it's checked off, and it shows you the shortcut key over here as well. So yeah, you know, there's more than one way to do it. You can also, I think, grab it over here. Let's see. Yeah, these little 3 stripes, tools. Yep, there's your brush again. So there's 4 ways sometimes. Anyway, let's extend that exposure of Wolverine's mask. Get my, you know, transform tool. Let's duplicate it. So now it's number 6. Let's bring that down just to above the head silhouette. So now when I stretch, it's a much easier fit. So there we go. I think that face needs to be tapped to the side a little bit as he's going down. It's not perfect as far as ball bounces and, you know, lo-fi rig builds go, but you know, this is the fun of it. You know, this isn't one of those videos where we just speed things up. We're doing it live. So let's add that face, F5, and let's duplicate that as well. And I can squeeze that face as thin as I want and then match it to his chin right over here. Very easy. F5. There we go. Oops. These were giving me a little problem. All right. Bring that down. Oops. Wrong one. I should have made my duplicate. Didn't do that. Number 8. Is the worst is when you forget to make a duplicate and you realize once you're reviewing it again, what you've done a few steps back, that you've actually been using the original, not the duplicate that you intended to make the entire time. So there we go. So his face is gonna like that on the ground. So this is where I would like to make a drawing substitution, because if I go over here to my library, I can see all the faces that Logan has up until now. And they're all available. I can go all the way back to 1 if I wanted to. Of course, it would be weird, but something you can do. But you can just match the faces as you go. A little bit helpful when you're going back in the opposite direction, because you can reuse a lot of these. So this is all the big build right now. So we'll need an original drawn here, because I don't have, a mask that, that can be splayed in such a way, like just pinched going vertically down. I need something that he's really hitting horizontally. So let's make a drawing substitution for this. So obviously, if I went this way, I could bring in the first drawn. But as you saw, if I went to my left, it makes what we call an empty drawn. And so you can also make the same thing just by going here, create empty drawn. And the only difference is if I press create empty drawn, it creates the frame for you, like a blank frame. And also, I believe it names it. Yeah, look at that. I had only up to number 8. I went over here, pressed create empty drawn, and it created my next substitution for me, number 9, with a frame held for it, but there's nothing in it. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. So I could easily Command Z, go right in here and just start drawing. And that's what I'm going to do. And it will create the number 9 or the 9th mask for me. I'll turn on my light table and I have my pencil, wrong color. Make his eyes wince a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, so I'll stop trying to do that. And let's do the same trick we did before. Command C, Command V, Command Shift up, and Command Shift left in this case. And I'm going to flop this by grabbing my select tool. And what I had tapped on was flip horizontal. There we go. And let's draw the rest of Logan's head. This is going to be a tight spot over here. pretty much a tangent against the chin. I'll do that. See what I can do here. That'll be the best I can do. Other than white. And let's also add some of that stubble. And I'll color in the top of his head with the right color. I hate that. I think that's one thing that they really improved on, I should say. Boy, I need more coffee. When it comes to that particular feature, with, being able to just, have the color that you wanted selected at the time to tap. To see if I have some problem with that in Harmony 16. Harmony 22, not a problem. So yeah, sometimes when I think I'm actually I tap yellow, I'm here and I tap the yellow, then I go here to my paintbrush bucket. Sometimes it just switches over to something else, but maybe it's just me. Anyway, let's keep moving. I'm going to reuse a piece of that F5 and some of this stuff. Maybe I can just, adjust some of these wings on his mask, but I'm going to make a duplicate. Bring this down a little bit more because he's getting really flat. And this one doesn't have a pivot, so let's add a pivot to it. Add that pivot right there. You see how it pops to where it thinks it is now. So or really where it's supposed to be. I think I might just leave this like this. I don't know. Turn that into a keyframe. Let me try something here. And I'm going to use my cutter tool up here, cutter. Option T is usually what gives that to you by default. It's pretty fun. So you see when I hit my paint bucket, you see it went right back to the last color that was selected, hence my frustration. So I have to literally go in Harmony 16 and select the color. So yeah, small improvements here and there. So I'll grab that piece I made over here, Command C, Command V. I'll just bring it over here for now, get rid of this jazz. And I'll turn this around using my cutter's horizontal feature. Finish that sentence. Just trying to tap this in place as much as possible. I'll make up for what I don't have with my brush. Have that. Whoops. That should do it. I'll shave a little bit over here. Nice little bit of squash right there. So now, hopefully, we can reuse a lot of this. So, Command C, Command V. And that's a little bit, that's going to need a little bit of its own. Yeah, it's going to need, because these are very individual drawings for this original ball bounce. So it wasn't intended to make Logan on top of, obviously, because that's shading and everything already added on. So I need to again make another drawing substitution out of their copy. So now I have a number 11. And for anybody that doesn't know, I'm using 1 to truck out, 2 to truck in. Same thing here to make these bigger and smaller, these keyframes. 1 to make them smaller, 2 to make them bigger. Just thought I might point it out, showing you everything that I'm doing. So obviously this one needs a little bit of a pivot, so or a pivot in general. Let's do that. Grab my handy dandy transform tool, and now I can adjust to my light. Oops, I'm grabbing too many things. This one needs a little stubble over here. That's definitely going to be a weird one. Let's try to use some of this one. A little cannibalization of this one. Command C, Command V, and then let's duplicate it. Now it's 12. See, each time that I make a duplicate, I have to reset its pivot. And I'm going to try something a little different here. I'm going to take this mouth off. Doesn't all have to be just copy paste or duplicate in place. Sometimes you just got to just give it a little bit extra oomph. I don't like this calligraphy look for the brush. So what am I using here? The character pencil. So let me just find something a little bit more normal. That's not going well. Oh, it's because of how much I've actually squished this drawn. It's responding to that. So now that I actually have to draw something, it looks like it's being made in calligraphy. So I'll just work with it. Again, this is all live, and there's lots of things that you could say, like, why do you do it that way? But that's the beauty of this program, is that you can define the right way for you to make anything. This is just one way to make anything with a bouncing ball. You can do this with a peg. You can do this with a peg and traditional animation, methods in mind. There's so many different ways to attack, just this idea and learn more about this program, which is really the goal here. It's not about making the perfect bouncing ball or the perfect lo-fi rig. It's about, learning, as you make these. I learn a lot about harmony each time I make one of these little bouncing balls, or exercises with it, where I build a character on top. I have a fun one that I like to build with the Justice League of America. Those automatically, it's a good thing to, because I had this covering the rest of it. Look how different they look on this side. So I should pay attention to what I'm doing, try to match it so it doesn't look weird on the playback. Sometimes you'll catch it for a moment. You're like, oh my God. Can't believe I can actually still see that. It lasted for a fraction of a second. And there it is. All right. Let's see if I can reuse anything over here. I know there's going to be a lot of duplicating going on over here. I'm sensing it because a lot of these balls are not in the same position as when it originally fell down. So it's not a complete copy and paste job over here. Like I said, this is a traditional bouncing ball that I kind of just drew as I was going along. And so we're just following it. So let's, find which drawing substitution seems to, fit the bill, so to speak. And I think there's a little bit of a lag on the computer. Let me just go right to the library itself and find a head that fits the bill. I'm going to say it's going to be one of these heads from the tongue. So I'm going to grab this one right here, Command C. I'll get rid of this one. I'll just hit Command V. And because it's a keyframe, that's why you saw when I grabbed the first one, it's all oblong because I've been adjusting on the actual layer. If I had a peg above these, this would be a lot more easier, obviously, because all the transformations that I'm making, squeezing his head, making it thinner, I could easily do that on a peg layer, which I'll do it next time in another video. But, it's good to see all of your options, and this is just one of them. So in this case right over here, I have, again, I just used the keyframe that looks like this, and I've been doing all the adjustments on them. So without it, number one looks like this. Oh, actually it looks fine. Okay, so let's see. Let me go back. And let me just grab number one and throw it on again. Let's see what happens. Well, that was number one. Why is it looking like that? Oh, it is what I said it would be. Okay, so because these are what the drawings look like right now, because I've squeezed them, this is what they look like, not squeezed, I guess. So Command C to grab that particular keyframe with the, well-proportioned face, and hit and get rid of that, obviously, and F5. I mean, Command V, sorry. Whoops. That didn't work out, so let's grab that again. Command C, Command V. No, that didn't work out again. Hold on. See, do I have to make it a keyframe? There we go. Okay. And let's duplicate that. So I'm going to duplicate the drawn. And I'm going to put a pivot on it, which is going to knock it out of whack a little bit. Here we go. I'll start to adjust it to the size of the ball. And I'll add some of the chinny chin here that's missing. F5. And let's duplicate that. We'll turn it into a keyframe too. what I should have been doing the entire time so I don't make something actually happen to, like squish the drawn is simply use your select tool, dude. Just, Command A with your select tool, drag a loop around it so that it doesn't affect the actual drawn itself. Because now I'm kind of hard pressed to go, back in here and, adjust them. But what you see here is what I should have been doing instead of grabbing it with my transform tool. But again, there's no real, right or wrong with these kinds of things because it's still happening. It's still a building over here. It's just another way of going about it. I'll use a variation on that face right here, F5, and duplicate. We'll keep doing that so I using the select tool to grab everything so I don't have any more problems, with rearranging the face more than it already has been rearranged. I'll F6 it, make it into a keyframe of its own. And we're almost there, so bear with me. Or at least the first part. Duplicate, Command A, bring it up. And you can always just drag your temporary pivot when you have your select tool selected and just bring it on up. I'm going to grab my brush. More Logan stubble. F6 and F5 to extend that exposure. And let's see, his head is getting back to normal. So I'm glad I'm just not manipulating these last few substitutions too much. Let's see. All right, let's just F5 it. F5, duplicate, F6. Command A. I'm just using my Shift and Command key to bring it up just to the top again of the silhouette, top of the head, and use my temporary pivot, bring it up so I can just click and drag up over here straight. Whoops, looks like I didn't grab all of the artwork. Also something that can happen when you're using the select tool. Make sure you're grabbing everything. Okay, let's try that again. I'll bring this up here and click and drag up. It was a little weird, so let's fix that a little bit. That's better. And nothing went out of the lines. So F6. And that F5. Duplicate. I'll F6 it. Command A. I'll grab this first one. Command C. Command V. And I'll duplicate it. Last duplicate. Whoops. Right, and this is number 20. I went back a few steps, so I want to make sure. And I should hit F5. Get rid of a bit of the stubble hangover. Okay, let's take a look at what we have. All right. So Logan head bouncing up and down. And if you hear any squeaking, I'm not farting. It's just moving around in my gaming chair. So yeah, so with that principle in mind, now I can go in and just, put in his body. You see that there's some, scraggly areas over here in the corner of his mouth. They're not great, but again, that's the limitations of what I've been working with, being that there was already some shade in there. I was trying to work with it. So, but you get the basic gist, and that's the whole point of making this video. Let me hit stop. And now I'm going to add a body. Should I try to figure out some of the scrappiness? Like that's really scrappy in there. There's nothing I can do about that. That's on the ball itself. Okay. Again, working with some limitations. Oh, also I can just add some skin on that layer. And let me see if I can use my paint behind, if it will help me. Let's see. Paint behind is right over here in my brush tools. There we go. So it's not so obvious. I'm gonna make that mouth a little bit more Wolverine-ish. Yeah, it works better. I don't care too much about the size of his mouth anymore, having too much stubble on it, so take my victory. So now I have a body I want to add to it. I'm gonna add the body under the head, Command R, and we'll call that torso. And I'm just gonna go with a very basic, bowling pin gourd kind of body. Let's see. It came in at the bottom. Where is it? Torso didn't come in. Hold on. Check the node view. Nope. I'm getting the torso. Okay, so I gotta recreate it. Command R, torso. And close. There it is. Match it to the composite. Make sure that it's under the head and mask. And start building from scene one, or frame one. This is all scene one. Turn on my light table. And I will use a wider nib with the right color. Let me get some heel in here. It's terrible. That'll work. And nobody has these little stripes over here. And I can do that when I'm using my pencil, so I love that. I don't know if he actually has this here, but I'm just going to add a little X. I think he does. And so if I have my cutter tool, I can just swipe and get rid of them. And let's do a quick color job over here. And I need a blue color for this classic Logan look. We'll call it blue, of course. Let's see which one is the closest in my memory. That's not too bad. Color with that. I know his belt is red, and hopefully I am still painting behind. We'll grab all of these. Oops, wrong one. Okay, and I do need a red now. So add a red, call it such. Here we go. And that for 2 frames. And I'll add a pivot over here. And this time, I'm going to make sure that when I make drawn substitutions of Logan's body, that I'm not affecting the drawn layer itself using the transform tool. So I'll try to keep away from that as much as possible as I make my duplicates, which will, make them not, when I want to reuse them, they're more well proportioned from, at least proportioned to what I originally created. So it's easier to use and, go back to for, a reasonable asset. So F5. And in this case, when I'm doing that, I don't think I really even need to make them into keyframes, honestly. You just kind of just make them. So let's make that into duplicate. And not using the transform key, I'm going to use my Option S, my select tool. So that's number 2. And I'm just going to bring it down. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of. It was not even important that I even added a pivot to it, honestly, because I'm not using the transform tool to control it. So let's F5 it again. And duplicate. Now it's number 3. And it's getting a little bit of an oblong shape to the gourd of the body, gourd shape of the body, as he's moving with it. So you can see that now we're seeing some of the inside, into the shoulders a little bit. That stripe goes. Let's go in here. and hit F5 and oops, wrong idea, F5 and duplicate. Always got to remember to duplicate. Get a little bit faster. So you see I'm just adjusting incrementally as I go through, just like I've done with everything else. F5. And if any of this is wrong or looks funky, again, that's the beauty of this program. I could easily just go back and adjust what I need, just tweak it. F5 and duplicate. Now that's number 5. And you can see that I'm running out of space. So I'll have to open everything up. And of course, I can just reset the dimensions of the camera later on by adding a camera layer with a peg on top of it to widen the camera aperture. So here he's about to slam down. So I'm not going to let this get in my way. I'm going to keep going. So he's getting, I think that he's a little off center over here. So I'm going to try to center his body. Yeah, it seems to get a little off center right around that point. So let's now keep going. Ooh, I'm going to try something cool. Because on this one is when he splits. So on this one, F5. Let's duplicate that. Command A, the select tool, bringing this down. I bring it over. 2 drops. He's getting really exaggeratedly long and skinny. And so here, I'll F5 it as usual, duplicate it as usual. And as that's happening, we'll say something else happens to his body. Like his butt reached here faster. So maybe I'll start to make it like expand a little bit. Let's grab my pencil. Wrong color. I need to bring that nib up. And I could also, find out what nib was used for these just by tapping on it. I can see I used an 11. But that may not matter anymore now that I've stretched it so much. So let's see. Right there. Use my cutter tool to get rid of what I don't need. And now his body is obviously going to need some substitutions, or a substitution. So I can turn on my onion skin so I can see where I'm going with this. So I would say that he expands, but not too much. I don't want to go too far with it. I can use my contour editor tool, tap, and drag this back to where I wanted it. There's more towards the base. There we go. I can grab this to try to bring this down a little bit. I can get rid of any intersecting lines I don't want. I tap in on them with my cutter tool. Oh, they all go away. Let me see if I can get rid of just that little speck. Yeah, I think I can. Here we go. Much cleaner. I don't think his belt was that thick on the inside of the line. It's wild. Oh, yeah, because I didn't continue in the line behind his head. Now, if you want to be able to imagine what's going on behind Logan's head, we can just always go to our solo key over here, our solo tool, which will isolate just the everything going on in the torso layer. You could also go into your drawn layer or drawn window, which really isolates it with its own, matrixy kind of white backdrop. I prefer just using good old fashioned solo mode because I don't have to switch between windows. But again, it's up to you. What you'd like to do is just, you should know your options. And that's the wrong option for a color. So here we go. That should fix that. Yep. And red. and yellow. Looks like here he expands even more. So I'm going to get crazy with it too. F6. Oops, sorry, F5. There we go. And I'm just going to expand a bit more of the bottom, like he's, it's a crater explosion of Wolvie. Looks like a gremlin right now, which is awesome. Also, uh, let's see. I hit F6, so that's still number 8. Now it's number 9. And let's span that butt just by using my cutter tool and just clicking and dragging in either direction. Let me see what's going on over here. Yeah, let me just make sure I'm matching exactly to where his butt made impact. Okay. I can click and drag down from there. Do that. Okay. And I can make a new connection over here. Use 11. We should be 11.2, if I am correct. It'll be thicker in this instance. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. Any line that you really are confident about, or you're happy with, I should say, takes quite a few Command Z's to get right. There we go. And I can see it fully as well. T, my cutter. Get rid of all these little scraggly bits I don't want. I just affected a little bit of yellow right over here. That's how, granular you can get with, being able to go in and edit your art layer. Really close in on there. You see all the imperfections, obviously, too. All the lines kind of bulge and a little bit jagged. You see now that this body has to go down a little bit too. Couldn't be so stationary. So will cause more work for myself. And I'll mask his arms, I guess, on top of it later on. Because I know that his arms have the little shield things on there, like little shoulder pads. So I'll add that later to kind of mask that going on. Now he's kind of just doing his recoil action over here. Man C, man V. And I can make that get a little skinny, I guess, on the way up. So F5, duplicate, man A. Let's thin that out a little bit. All right, now he's going to go back up. So let's see what drawing substitutions I can use that will help. That should help. He's going up pretty rapidly. Let's see, is there another one that's, no, he should be going pretty fast. So we'll do that. That should be working pretty good. Hopefully I didn't mess up anything over here. I don't remember making a duplicate of it. Okay, I think I'm good. I'll make a duplicate. So you can see his body is getting back into its original state. The more that he goes up. I was just using duplicates of his body before. There's that one. I'm going to duplicate it so I can move it. And that's with 2 frames. F5. And let's actually use our drawing substitution. That one. And this may not turn out the way that I want it to, but we'll see. We'll see. It's always when I get to this point, I'm like, oh God, how is this going to play back? After all that work. I'm going to keep that one right here, that body. I'll just use the very first one. All right. Oh, let's see what we got. That's not right. Got to fix Logan. So let's do that. I think the first thing that I would do is raise how, oh my God, what happened here? Okay. Let's try that again. I think that's when I didn't actually duplicate when I should have been duplicating. So let's just duplicate it. Again, not the end of the world. in Harmony. Now that goes there. All right, so my problems begin about here. So let's propose that we Command A, bring this up a bit. About right here, actually. That's a pretty good place to be, I think, as a fake measuring line. So Command A. There we go. So it looks like Stripe from Gremlins. All right, now he's kind of back where he belongs. And A. And that presents that problem right here. So let's do that. Just leaving the green. Let's try that again. Oh, much better. That worked out. All right. So next up, adding his legs.